Couple of weeks after the triplets are adopted, the adoption agency sends Debbie, Carrie, James, Punny, Vicky and Paul a message in the form of a video made by the triplets' birth mother.
Okay, now let's view this message and see what she has to say to us.
Hello. I am Debbie Belmont, the one who gave birth to the triplets you now have. First, let me say how happy I am to know that you came along so soon to take in these children and give them loving homes. I was so worried that they would be in foster care for most of their childhood and they would be scarred for life as a result. I was myself brought up in a family of Christian fanatics. They tried to raise me in their purity culture, but I already knew that sort of thing was sexist bullshit. I was desperate to escape my parents' control, and that led me into the arms of my boyfriend. But he turned out to be even worse than my parents. So I dumped him and submitted myself to my parents again, only to learn I was pregnant. And then I find I am having triplets. My parents refused to let me terminate the pregnancy, and I will never forgive them for that. And I have vowed that when I turn 18 I will disown them completely. Let me assure you that I will never try to take those babies away from you. I carried them for 32 weeks and that seems like a lifetime. But I do want them to know who I was. And I am so glad to know you are not Christians, because those kids shouldn't be raised in such a toxic religion that I had. Again, I thank you for coming to the rescue of these babies. You are like angels of mercy in this cruel world.
Wow. She seems so painfully young. Literally a child. Having children.
I'm just glad she could be helped. I think we could someday be friends with her.
It certainly seems like a good omen that she and Debbie Smith have the same first name, eh?
Meanwhile, at the town's hospital.
How do you feel, Lucy? 100% better, Jessica. The chest pains I'd been suffering from are completely gone.
Mrs. Sims, you will have to stay here for another week or so for observation and to heal up, but your prognosis is quite good. Dr. Farris says the procedure went perfectly and your coronary blockages should no longer be an issue.
Thank you, Dr. Drake.
Debbie and Carrie pay a visit to Dallas to see Carrie's speech therapist. And also visit Annika.
So, how are your grandparents treating you?
Quite well, actually. They seem to have no trace of the homophobia they must have had before. I feel comfortable to be with them, but I will always consider you and Carrie to be my aunts and Richard to be my cousin. And now you say I have 3 more cousins?
There's a saying, when one door closes, another opens. I'm just glad we could help those babies. Robot, answer the door.
As you command.
Hello, Mrs. Smith. You may not recognize me, but I am Suzanne Hudson. I am wearing the visor my father invented and gave to me. With it, I now have perfect vision.
Of course, I remember you. And is this Diana, your niece? She has grown quite a bit since I saw her last.
Yes, it's me. I am here to see Richard. I want to spend Halloween with him. Aunt Suzanne said I could spend either Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas or New Year's Eve with Richard, so I chose Halloween to get my being with him done quickly. Is that okay?
Sure. I'm sure we will be happy to see you again.
And sure enough, after Richard gets out of school, Sandy picks him up and takes him to the Tuscany Tavern to meet Diana.
It's just amazing how close those two are.
Diana told me that her being kidnapped and you almost being killed made her see how special you and Richard are. She wanted to save your life, because the thought of Richard losing his grandmother to that crazed woman Diana Kelly was unbearable.
Well, your Diana was a lot braver than I expected. And she is beautiful too. I would be honored if she someday became my grandson's wife.
You see that potential too? Sometimes you just know things will work out with someone just by the way they are. The very first day I met Laura Park, I knew she was truly special, and she filled a void in my heart that had troubled me for years. I can't imagine life without her now.
Diana, I want to see you at least once a year from now on. Until we can actually live together. There is no other girl I want. You saved my grandmother even while she was trying to save you. I love you.
As long as we have each other, that's all I care about, forever. We are soulmates.
Halloween has arrived, and so Richard Sims and Diana Hudson put on costumes and go trick-or-treating. When I said we should dress up as aliens, I wasn't expecting you to look like an elf.
You've never watched Star Trek? Spock is my favorite Star Trek character. He is the science officer of the Enterprise, and I want to grow up to be a lot like him.
I have watched episodes of The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. Just not any with Spock. Well, look at that.
Ho ho ho. Happy Halloween, kids. Please make a donation to charity in exchange for some candy.
Will 53 cents do? That's all I have on me.
Keep your money, Richard. I have $6 in my pocket. Santa, let me donate all of it, and then Richard and I can share the candy.
You have a deal, young lady. Indeed, that's the most generous donation I have gotten today, so I will give you and Richard 6 candy bars. Enjoy them.
Debbie approaches Santa Claus, who is actually Mr. Hernandez in costume.
Here is $25 for your charity, Mr. Hernandez.
I'm sorry, I just gave the last of my candy bars to those kids. I guess I should have gotten more to hand out.
It's okay. One of those kids is my son. I don't need candy bars.
Mother Debbie, you can have one of ours.
Thank you, Richard. Let's move on.
Mrs. Sims, we need to spend 2 hours cleaning after we close tonight instead of 1.
Why? What happened?
Some prankster smeared fecal matter all over the ladies' room. The walls, floors, the toilets, even the sink. The whole place is now a mess.
You mean some prankster sabotaged the restroom? And you say it was the ladies' room? Did you see if the men's room was also vandalized?
I'll go check it now. The men's room is okay. I asked a customer to look around in it in exchange for a free drink. He said it was fine.
Then give the customer the drink. And put an out-of-order sign on the door of the ladies' room. Cleaning it will be our first priority when we close.
But that won't be for several more hours.
If we shut down the restaurant now, it will be even more of an inconvenience. Greetings. I am Jennifer Henley, Health Inspector for this county. I am here to do a surprise inspection of your restaurant. I see. You may proceed with the inspection. Mrs. Sims, I'm afraid I will have to order your restaurant shut down after seeing what an absolute disaster one of the restrooms is. Because of that, you will receive a failing grade. Well, we only just learned about the mess in there when you arrived. So we didn't have time to clean it. We normally clean the restrooms, and the rest of this place, whenever we close for the night. And it's quite an odd coincidence that our ladies' room was trashed right before you showed up, isn't it? What are you suggesting?
Lucy then pulls out her smartphone, which she uses to display footage from one of the Tuscany Tavern's security cameras, the one monitoring the doors to the restrooms.
According to this footage, you were the one who came in the Tuscany Tavern about 3 hours ago, didn't order any food, and went straight to the ladies' room, leaving it shortly afterwards. The mess in the restroom was found soon afterwards. So you need to clean up the mess you caused. If you don't, I will contact your supervisor and give them that footage and demand that you be fired for trying to scam this restaurant and us as its employees and owners. Okay, you caught me. This man offered me $200 if I would try to get your restaurant shut down. What man? I will show you.
Miss Henley pulls out her own smartphone and shows a pic of the man in question.
I took that pic in case he tried to cheat me out of the money he promised. Then I could get him identified on social media. Right, and then you would have to explain why he had offered you money to begin with. For the record, that man is Lee Lord, an enemy of mine. You know, for a health inspector you are pretty damn stupid. Now get your ass to cleaning up your mess. Now.
And so Lucy and Bella force Miss Henley to comply with Lucy's demand, and then the restaurant is given a clean bill of health.
Mrs. Smith, what are you doing here?
I'm here to give you this.
I am being sued. For what?
For trying to sick that health inspector on the Tuscany Tavern. She trashed the ladies' restroom and then tried to fail the place because of the mess she herself made, but she confessed to what she did after she was caught on the restaurant's security cameras. And then she ratted you out.
Oh, shit.
The church in the town is visited by a family from a neighboring town.
So you and a few others have joined together to form your own Unitarian Universalist fellowship in your town?
That's right. We decided that it would be better for us than driving 80 or so miles to attend services here. We came here for advice and assistance.
We consider ourselves to be Christians, but our daughter has faced a lot of harassment for her unique appearance. We understand that you are accepting of everyone.
My name is Leslie McAllister. I am 14 years old.
I am Vicky Sims. So it appears you have African American features on your face, but your skin color is even whiter than most so-called white people.
That's because I am albino. I was born with no ability to produce pigments for my skin and hair. And so I can't call myself black or white, just albino. And human. So many people call me a freak because of my condition. It's as bad as racism.
You are right. Bigotry is bigotry, and we are all about loving people for what they are. People should see you as a unique and beautiful girl, not a freak. Welcome to the Tuscany Tavern, sir. What would you like to order?
I want a large pepperoni pizza and 2 glasses of red wine. I am waiting for someone else to arrive who will share the meal with me.
Welcome to the Tuscany Tavern. What would you like to order? I'm here to meet Dr. Michael Drake. Where is he? Over there. He has already ordered for you. Just as we planned. I admire a man who knows not to waste time.
I was quite surprised when you were the first response to the ad I placed in the dating site. I mean, you are much older than me.
Ever since I was a teen, one of my goals in life was to settle down with a good Christian man and raise a family with him. So when I met Ted Anderson in high school, I thought he would be my perfect match. He also was a member of my church, so right after graduation we married, and a few years later our son George was born and then our daughter Amy. Ted got himself elected mayor of this town, and George became a police officer here, and our daughter married a rich man and moved to Tennessee with him. And then everything went to hell once it was revealed that my husband and son were both criminals whose actions and policies ruined so many innocent lives. For a time, I considered rejecting Christianity and maybe even becoming an atheist like the ones Ted and George fought against. But then I saw your ad in which you wrote about your own Christian values and you wanted someone who shared them. And now I am thinking I should be like you, because you opposed the corruption of Ted and George from the start, and that was indeed the right thing to do. So thanks to you, my faith has been renewed.
I'm glad I could help. I myself had to learn the hard way that being a true Christian is all about exposing hypocrites and abusers in your own religious community. As the Bible itself says, many false prophets have gone into the world. And to defeat the false ones, you must believe there's truth out there to find and learn from. Atheists like Sandy Smith and her friends and children have their own paths to follow, and since Jesus taught us to love our neighbors, without exception, we cannot think of people different from us as the enemy. Only God can judge them, not us.
I agree. Your pizza and glasses of wine are ready. Enjoy. Carrie, I've lived in this town most of my life and it's never been this cold as long as I can remember. I don't think I can tolerate this much longer.
Debbie, come here. There's Mr. Bentley.
What are you two doing out here?
Our car broke down, and we are stranded here. We just called for help, though. Can you take Debbie? I can stay with our car, but she needs to get home to take care of Richard and Sarah.
Yeah. We are certainly not having school tomorrow. The power actually went out at the high school. No power, no heat. No heat, no reason to have school. Let's go. All that talk from the scientists and Al Gore about global warming, and instead this happens. What idiots they seem to be.
Climate change is a lot more complicated than just hotter temperatures. The weather patterns in general are far more unstable than in the past.
Wayne Bentley drops off Debbie at the Smith-Wilson mansion. Meanwhile,
Thanks for coming to fix the car, Eric.
yeah, you just need to replace the battery to get the car moving again. We will tow it to my shop. Then I will install the new battery.
What do I owe you?
$150. But you can pay me in a week or so. The important thing is getting you home safely. Mrs. Smith, we have spent all day dealing with cases of frostbite and other problems resulting from the extreme cold. And one burnt-down house that resulted from an attempt by the occupants to keep warm after their heating system failed. So they started a fire in the living room. Then sparks ignited the sofa and the curtains.
Wow, that sucks. Please answer the door.
Sure.
I brewed up plenty of coffee to keep you warm and alert.
Thanks. I'm afraid we will have to shut down the restaurant since we are not getting much business today.
I guess I should have paid better attention to the weather forecasts. I've never known this town to be so cold. Hi. Lucy, I can't see anything.
Don't panic. Can you feel my hand? Okay, just let me lead you to the outside.
Well, I can see again, but now I am even colder. So stupid of me to not bring a coat.
Go on home. I will go back inside and make sure everything is in order before locking up.
Vicky Sims, I can confirm that you are perfectly healthy. And now you say you want to have your tubes tied to prevent a pregnancy? Are you sure about that?
Yes. Paul and I have adopted a baby boy, and we are content with that. We don't need to have a baby from my own body. You are not going to try to talk me out of it, are you?
No, as long as you are sure about what you want. Often on such matters people are uncertain of their life goals and make a mistake they regret decades later. But you seem to know exactly what you want, so I will schedule the surgery for you. There, he is finished. Oh, hey Mother Debbie. You like the snowman I made?
Sure, but can you come inside so I can serve you a hot meal? I'm starving myself.
All right. I hope chicken noodle soup is on the menu. Debbie and Carrie are in Dallas again. In the morning, Carrie attends another speech therapy session, and then in the afternoon she displays some of the paintings she has made in an art gallery.
Debbie, this is awesome. I hoped my paintings would sell well, but they are going so fast.
Well, you only charge $100 per painting. I was told that some paintings can sell for thousands or even millions of dollars. Maybe if you raise the price at the next session, your paintings will sell slower but you will make more money.
As long as I am making enough to pay for my expenses, I am satisfied. Mr. McKinsey, thank you for coming here and bringing Annika too.
Mrs. Sims, I am deeply impressed by your beautiful works. So I will buy up all your remaining paintings and put them up in my home. I think my wife will love them too. As you know, she is confined to a wheelchair and I am happy to do what I can to lift her spirits now she can no longer walk. And I'd like to draw up a will stating that you and your wife can regain custody of Annika if something should happen to me before she becomes an adult. That seems only fair.
Thank you, but why would the judge in our case cite my speech impediment as an issue but not your wife's inability to walk? That seems illogical.
Indeed, Annika herself brought that up after we took her home. She was clearly unhappy with the decision, hence the offer I am making you now.
Debbie, would you be willing to take Annika back someday?
Of course. She belongs with people who love her, and Richard and I do love her very much. Thanks for showing me the pics of those triplets. I feel like they are my cousins too. Maybe in a few more years we can all do summer camp together, like we did several years ago.
Yeah, and I hope we don't have more wildfires or crazy kidnappers.
Right, that was absurd indeed.
Meanwhile, back at the Smith-Wilson mansion in the town. You say you have something you want to show me?
Yes. Charlie and I found something disturbing in the backyard when he and I were starting to do gardening.
Whitney leads Simon Wilson to the site of the discovery. Oh my god. Those are indeed skeletal remains. Clearly human too. Right. And if my suspicions are correct, those are the remains of my Aunt Jennifer, Uncle Leonard's wife. You know how he told us he left him and Ted when Ted was 4? But we never saw or heard from her again. What if Uncle Leonard killed her and buried her in this backyard? And then history repeated itself with Ted killing and burying his wife Rebecca at their Dallas home. Ah, the police have arrived.
Mr. Wilson, allow us to take over. We will take these bones back to our forensics lab to learn as much as we can from them.
So we have determined that the bones did indeed come from a woman in her 30s, and she died about 22 years ago, about the time Jennifer Wilson disappeared. And she was shot in the forehead.
And I thought the corruption in the Wilson family was terrible enough.
Now Ted's own horrible acts make sense. His father got away with killing his mother, so he must have thought he himself could get away with acts of bullying and murder too.
Ted made a choice to accept his father's own sexist attitude for himself, instead of doing the right thing and reporting what his father did to the police.
There is no statute of limitations on murder, so charges can still be filed against Leonard Wilson over what he did to his wife. And then once he is convicted, he will never get out of prison. Like his son, I hope he gets life without parole. After the police department of the town completed their investigation of the murder of Jennifer Wilson, her remains were returned to Charlie Wilson and Whitney Owen in a wooden coffin. They, along with Simon Wilson and Simon's wife Karen, decide to hold a funeral and give a proper burial for their murdered family member. Since my sister-in-law was buried here 22 years ago, we have agreed to bury her again at this location, and with a small headstone to mark her final resting place. Now I understand why my brother insisted that I and my family couldn't live here again. He must have feared we would learn the truth about Jennifer's fate. At least now she will finally have justice done for her. Let it be so. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And let us move forward to redeem ourselves as much as possible from the stains left behind by Leonard and Ted. Never again must we tolerate bullies and corruption among us. We must always seek to do the highest good instead. Would it shock you to know that before today, I never once set foot in this mansion? Really? Why not? One of the reasons why Simon and Leonard didn't get along well was because of Simon choosing me to be his wife. My parents were farmers, and Leonard thought Simon could have chosen someone better. Well, I already knew Leonard was something of an elitist. But that's stupid. Indeed. Without farmers, our society wouldn't even exist. That's right. The division between rural and urban areas in our society is unnatural. In ancient times, cities started because of settled farmers living together in one place. The split between rural and urban areas was a result of the Industrial Revolution. Anyway, Simon and I want you to know how thankful we are for our daughter-in-law Whitney acquiring this property and marrying our son Charlie, thus keeping it in the family. And we are also grateful to you for helping to bring both Leonard and Ted to justice.
You and your children and grandchildren will always be welcome to live here.
Later, at the next meeting of the town's ruling council.
Mrs. Smith, are you going to run for mayor again? You will be up for re-election next year.
Actually, I have decided to not run again, for 2 reasons. 1, I ran for mayor to begin with to fix serious problems in this town that were caused by the mayor before me, Ted Anderson. Those problems have all been dealt with. And second, I am well aware that my public reputation was tarnished by my affair with my ex-husband Steve and my subsequent beating in her jail cell of Cindy Everson. I don't want to risk getting defeated because of those scandals by a right-wing bigot that might try to drag the town back to the way it was a decade ago. So I think I can better protect my political legacy by not trying to hold on to this office. I will simply serve to the end of my 2nd term, then step down.
I think that's a wise decision. It would certainly silence a lot of your critics.
So who is going to run for mayor instead? One of us, perhaps. Not me. My husband was the politician. I spent most of my life as his housewife. I'm only on this council because Mrs. Smith convinced me that I needed to redeem the family name.
Sandy told me the same thing. And I have run for mayor before and I can run for it again. You lost that race, Simon. You want to risk losing again? Well, I'd rather lose to you than to someone 10 times worse, like Lee Lord. I appreciate the suggestion, but I have 0 plans to run for mayor again. It wasn't as productive as I'd hoped. I'm better off running the high school.
We can just wait until someone else throws their hat in the ring and then respond accordingly. Now, shall we consider the town's budget for this year?
It is the year 2033 and most of Texas, including the town of Debbie and Carrie, is in the grip of a cold spell. But unknown to most of the people of the town, an even greater threat is about to hit it. For now, life goes on.
James, I am thinking we should leave the mansion and live instead in that house with my Uncle Wayne. Ever since grandmother died, he has been alone in that house, except for brief periods of me being there. I think he would be delighted to have us and our children, including our new daughter Susan.
You know he is my boss, right? That's awkward enough, but living with him would be even more problematic.
No less problematic than living in the same home as your mother and sister. I really want our own place, but that would be expensive. 2-bedroom apartments in most places cost over $1,000 a month in rent, and a proper house would cost far more. At least the house Uncle Wayne is in is totally paid for.
You are right. I just wish we had more money.
I just found it so incredible that for so many years my Uncle Leonard and Cousin Ted had this massive home all to themselves and never wanted to share it with others, not even me and my parents. And now we finally know why. They were covering up the murder of Ted's own mother, no less.
It explains so many things about Ted's twisted character that always puzzled me before. Now we know for sure that he was brought up to be just the way he was. He was evil because his father was evil before him.
As the older son, Uncle Leonard was considered the heir to this property, originally built by my grandfather. Father Simon was a spare, so my grandfather spoiled Leonard and forced Father to go out and make a living on his own. Which was the best thing for him, because he was able to prove himself capable of being independent. So my grandfather rewarded him in the end with part ownership of the town's hospital. Even though that meant the Wilson brothers would have to deal with each other often afterwards.
Perhaps your grandfather hoped that by sharing that responsibility, your uncle and father would learn to get along better. But that plan didn't work out.
You are right. The longer they had to deal with each other, the more they resented each other. I think a final breakup between them was inevitable. I hope you and your brother James never end up hating each other, Debbie. Family members should always love and support each other, no matter what.
Well, the fact that he was willing to adopt one of those triplets speaks volumes about his nature. He is a good and loving man. He was quite an annoyance as a child, but he was never bad. My mother treated him and me as equals from the start. Sure, you could say that Diana was spoiled and corrupted by her and my mother, but she was still responsible for the choices she made. To steal rich from you,
to marry into your family, and to eventually to try to murder you. Our mother didn't force her to do any of those terrible things. But can you honestly say that if you were the older sister you would not have been like Diana? I guess that is something we cannot be certain of. I just know what she did was wrong and that's what matters. Speculation on what could have been is pointless, in my opinion. Is that enough, Mr. Laker?
Yes, thank you for your comments, both of you. I will proceed to edit this footage for the news podcast tonight.
Welcome, everyone, to the annual art contest in Fort Worth. Each year at this time we accept entries from artists of all mediums and locations, and the entries are examined by a panel of judges. The winner of the contest gets a $1,000 prize, and their artwork is placed in the Modern Art Museum in Fort Worth for at least 1 year. So now let us review the final nominees for the contest.
I am Samir Lemmy, and this is a painting I made of sunflowers. Most sunflowers are yellow and black, but I made these green to get the attention of the viewer.
I am Carrie Sims. This is a painting I named Blue Waves and Hills. You would normally expect such hills to be green or brown, but I made them blue to make the viewer think of water. For all of life depends on water.
My name is Leslie Parker, and this is a photograph I took of sunlight passing through a tree in the forest. It is an almost heavenly appearance.
My name is Teddy Rod, and this is a pic I took of Crater Lake, but framed by a rainbow that extends all the way from one side to the other, almost like a circle.
Henry Mack here, and this is a painting I did of the planet Mars as I believe it will appear 1,000 years from now, after we colonize and terraform it to make it habitable for people. A billion years from now, we will have no choice but to move there once Earth becomes too hot to live on.
Those are all impressive works. Yes, but I love how Carrie brought up the issue of water. I remember how when the forest outside our town was burned up, we fled to the water of the nearby creek to protect ourselves.
I've never been much of an art lover, but that painting by Carrie Sims is beautiful. If she does not win this contest, I would still buy her painting from her.
Not if I buy it instead.
And now it is time to announce the winner for this year. And the winner is Leslie Parker. Come and get your prize, Miss Parker.
I wonder how they can decide who the winner is. It's all subjective. Picasso was considered a great artist, but most of his works look like crap to me. The only reason Republicans have ever lost elections recently is because they have allowed their party leaders to suck like vacuum cleaners. Either the party drastically reforms itself to serve the people again, or the people themselves should reject it and find another party to serve their interests. This is the 21st century, for crying out loud. Why are Republicans in general still acting like we are in the Cold War period? Both major parties need new generations of leaders that understand the real issues facing the public now. So you need to remain mayor of your town. Given your track record, I wouldn't trust anyone else to run that place fairly.
I will consider your arguments, but I have always enjoyed being a lawyer fighting for justice in courts. My being mayor limits that.
Well, sometimes, you have to put your personal desires aside to serve the people. And who says you cannot do both? How hard is the mayor's job, anyway?
Well, another day, another painting sold. I may not have won the contest, but I still made money today. Hey, Carrie, I just got a call from the Aphrodite agency. Debbie asked me to speak with you, Miss Rouge. What's going on?
I was wondering if you would like to try your hand at modeling. Like doing paintings, doing modeling is something you can do without being hindered by your speech impediment.
I am hardly the glamorous type. Shouldn't you be asking Debbie to model for you again? She is the beautiful one.
Well, she turned down my offer and recommended you instead. And I think with some beautiful outfits and a makeover, you can be impressive in your own way. It's not about having some predetermined standard of beauty.
Thanks. I will talk with Debbie about this. You seem to have a lot more faith in me than I do in myself. Because you should never limit yourself. If I say you are beautiful, you should believe me.
and thus believe in yourself. You are the brightest star of my life, Carrie. Always. I love you.
Carrie Sims is in Dallas at the invitation of Claudette Rouge, the CEO of the Aphrodite Agency.
Thanks for coming to us. So are you ready to undergo a makeover?
Sure, I don't mind. Changing my appearance for a good reason. What do you have in mind?
I want to use you in a special campaign, and I will pay you well for it, but at the same time you can be different enough so you can pretend to be a different person. Like acting, but you won't be speaking lines. Just posing for photos in various settings.
Claudette then takes Carrie to have her appearance altered.
Carrie, I am Rebecca Blaine, and I will be your makeup artist and stylist today. I think I can do some interesting things with you to make you look like a movie star. Let's get to work. So, what do you think?
Amazing. Now you look totally glamorous. Let's start shooting.
And then over the next several hours, Carrie works with a photographer.
Carrie, you are doing an awesome job. Thank you for coming here.
But after the modeling sessions are done, Carrie goes and takes a long look in the mirror at herself. And what she sees.
Is this really what I have become?
No. This can never be the real you. You have always been true to yourself before. Remember what you really are. Even when you looked like this, you chose it. No one else. Take back your life.
And Carrie does just that.
I'm sorry, but after today I will do no more modeling. It's just not suited for me. I have to do what fits me, always.
I understand. We will still pay you for today's work, and I wish you the best.
Carrie then takes the pics of her as a model back to the town to show Debbie.
Carrie, I agree. You look great just as you're now, and no one should force you to change. At least it was worth a try, but only you can decide what is right for yourself.
And that is why I am so loyal to you, always. You love me as I am, just as my mothers always did.